Hi, my name is Kainson Moulinier, and today we are going to continue from where we stopped on the project time management knowledge area. Today we are going to be looking at estimate activity resources. Previously on the project time management knowledge area, we discussed sequence activities where we have the output of the project schedule network diagram and project document updates. And today we are going to use this output to estimate activity resources. Alright, let's look at what it means to estimate activity resources. According to the PMBOK guide, estimate activity resources is a process of estimating the type and quantities of materials, human resources, equipment, or supply required to perform each activity. The key benefit of this process is that it identifies the type, quantity, and characteristics of resources required to complete the activity, which allows more accurate cost and duration estimates. The estimate activity resource process is closely coordinated with the estimate cost process. For example, a construction project team will need to be familiar with the local building codes. Such knowledge is often readily available from local sellers. However, if the local labor pool lacks experience with unusual or specialized construction techniques, the additional cost for consultant may be the most effective way to secure knowledge of the local building code. So you see why we say that estimate activity resources is closely coordinated with estimate costs. Estimate cost for sure is from the cost management knowledge area, which we are going to look at later on. Alright, let's now look at the ITTOs of the estimate activity resources. We have the schedule management plan. Of course, this is the output from the plan schedule management. We have resource calendars, activity lists, and activity attributes, risk register, activity cost estimates, enterprise environmental factors, and organizational process assets. We have 5 tools and techniques used for estimate activities. They are as follows: expert judgment, alternatives analysis, published estimating data, bottom-up estimating, and project management software. We have 3 outputs from estimate activity resources process: activity resource requirements, resource breakdown structure, and project document updates. As usual, we'll be asking ourselves questions: why do we need this input for this process? Schedule management plan, of course, defines the procedure and policies for managing the schedule. Activity list, of course, for you to estimate activity resources, you need the list of activities. Remember, activity list is output of defined activities process. Activity attributes provide the primary data input for use in estimating those resources required for each activity in the activity list. Now we have risk register. Risk events may impact resource selection and availability. Updates to the risk register are included with project documents updates. So we need the risk register when we estimate activity resources. Activity cost estimates. Cost of resources may impact on resource selection. So you have 2 similar resources and one is so expensive, therefore you might go for a lower cost based on the cost baseline. So what it means, we need the cost estimate for us to be able to estimate activity resources. Now this is an important one: resource calendars. A resource calendar is a calendar that identifies the working days and shifts on which each specific resource is available. Information on which resources, such as human resource, equipment and material, are potentially available during a planned activity period is used for estimating resource utilization. Resource calendars specify when and how long identified project resources will be available during the project. This information may be at the activity or project level. This knowledge includes consideration of attributes such as resource experience and/or skill level, as well as various geographical locations from which the resources originate and when they may be available. So resource calendar is one of the key inputs and necessary inputs for estimate activity resources process. Then we have the EEFs and the OPAs. Let's now examine the tools and techniques for estimate activity resources. The tools and techniques are as follows. Expert judgment. Yes, we need expert judgment for us to be able to have an accurate estimate of activity resources. Expert judgment guided by historical information can provide duration. Expert judgment is often required to assess the resource-related inputs to this process. Any group of persons with specialized knowledge in resource planning and estimating can provide his expertise. Then we have alternatives analysis. I think I've discussed alternatives analysis previously in one of the modules. Many scheduled activities have alternative methods of accomplishment. They include using various levels of resource capability or skills, different size or types of machines, different tools, and make, rent, or buy decisions regarding the resource. Alternatives analysis, I think, appeared in defined scope. Right, I think so. It appeared in defined scope. Another tool and technique that might be useful in estimate activity resources is published estimating data. Several organizations routinely publish updated production rates and unit cost of resources for an extensive array of labor trades, materials and equipment for different countries and geographical locations within countries. So this published estimating data can help you to make your activity resource estimate more accurate and more informed. Then we have bottom-up estimating. This is a method of estimating project resources, duration or cost by aggregating the estimate of the lower level components of the WBS. When an activity cannot be estimated with a reasonable degree of confidence, the work within the activity is decomposed into more detail. The resource needs are estimated, and these estimates are often aggregated into a total quantity for each of the activity's resources. Activities may or may not have dependencies between them that can affect the application and use of resources. There are dependencies. This pattern of resource usage is reflected and documented in the estimated requirements of the activity. Alright, we also have project management software. Something like a scheduling software tool has the capability to help plan, organize, and manage resource pools and develop resource estimates. An example might be Primavera or Microsoft Project. Let's now look at the three outputs of the estimate activity resources process. The first one is activity resource requirement. That is one important output from the estimate activity resources process. Activity resource requirements identify the type and quantities of resources required for each activity in a work package. These requirements then can be aggregated to determine the estimated resources for each work package and each work period. The amount of detail and the level of specificity of the resource requirement descriptions can vary by application area. The resource requirements documentation for each activity can include the basis of estimate for each resource, as well as the assumptions that were made in determining which type of resources are applied, their availability, and what quantities are used. Another output of the estimate activity resources process is resource breakdown structure, RBS for short. The resource breakdown structure is a hierarchical representation of resources by category and type. Examples of resource categories include labor, material, equipment, and supplies. Resource types may include the skill level, grade level, or other information as appropriate to the project. The resource breakdown structure is useful for organizing and reporting project schedule data with resource utilization information. And the final output from estimate activity resources is the project document updates. Project document updates that may be updated includes activity lists, activity attributes, and resource calendars. This is where we wrap it up on estimate activity resources, but as usual, we have a recap of the ITTOs. The input to estimate activity resources is schedule management plan, resource calendars, activity lists and attributes, risk register, activity cost estimate, enterprise environmental factors, and organizational process assets. Tools and techniques are expert judgment, alternatives analysis, published estimating data, bottom-up estimating, project management software. And the outputs are three of them: activity resource requirements, resource breakdown structure or RBS, and project document updates. I hope you've learned much from this presentation. I'd like to thank you for viewing, and please check out the next item on the line, and that is estimate activity durations.